Thank you, Dave. It's the season finale for the Bombers, and the Stampeders still vying for a home playoff spot. Calgary against Winnipeg today at Canada Stadium. And a pretty good football day for late October. In the Peg, as long as the rain holds off, a wind not a factor, and the temperature quite comfortable. There's Tom Higgins, his Stamps after their 4th straight road win, and that would set up a battle next week for a home playoff date as they'll meet the Edmonton Eskimos. Jim Daly's Bombers trying to erase the bitter taste of that debacle in Vancouver last week. 41-1 the score, and they'll try and put a more positive spin on the end of the 2005 campaign.
Calgary Stampeders have a better team. On paper should win this game, but Brian Clark said it best. He said the Winnipeg Blue Bombers right now are like a wounded animal backed in a corner, and that can be very unpredictable.
Well, we saw a few weeks ago Hamilton spoil Ottawa's playoff hopes with an upset win. What will happen today in Winnipeg? Keith Stokes gets things going to the 35-yard line. Kevin Glenn will start at quarterback. 14th start of the year for Glenn as we set the Winnipeg offense for you.
Charles Roberts, the #1 rusher in Canadian football this year. Now Joffrey Reynolds is in #2 on the other sideline. So Reynolds hoping his defense can contain Charles Roberts. Milt Stegall, Lockville Hall of Fame, is talking about the fact that this may be his last game in the Winnipeg Blue Bomber uniform, and an offensive line that will probably spend the first quarter and a half introducing themselves to each other.
Starting lineup brought to you by Tums. Tums tackles heartburn fast. Glenn not wasting any time for Brazel, and Jermaine Chapman will be flagged on the play.
But when you got nothing to lose, why not in the first play of the game try and go up top by your speed guy, Chris Brazel? And Jermaine Chapman did not look back to the football. He did get his hands up, but because he didn't look back in time, the opinion of the officials, this will be called pass interference or screening. See, he never looks back. He never looks back to the football.
Spot foul, first down.
Bud Steen in charge. It's a 43-yard penalty against the Stampeders. Jermaine Chapman's been so solid in that Calgary secondary. He was on the corner, moved inside because he's one of their best cover guys, but draws an early flag. And now Glenn goes to a double tight end formation, pitching left side. Here's the leading rusher in the Canadian Football League, and whoa, what a collision there. Brian Clark, the former Bomber.
Oh, this is playoff football. Brian Clark, the former Winnipeg Blue Bomber, Chris, as you mentioned, getting over there and just letting his teammates sort of remember what he was like in this locker room when he was here. That's Brian Clark. Watch him floor the football and step up in the hole on Charles Roberts. And Roberts, one of the smallest, if not the smallest running back in the Canadian Football League, will always take those hits on.
Jim Daly yesterday talking about the toughness of the diminutive running back. 2nd and 7. Stokes pulls it down at the 4-yard line. Joey Bose in coverage. But these Bombers have come out to make amends for last week.
Kevin Glenn catches the Calgary Stampeders in a 2-deep zone defense, which is Joey Bose back in the half field. And when Bose gets back there now, he has to break on the football and get over there to Keith Stokes. Keith Stokes pulls that one down, knowing he's going to get hit by the deep defender and Joey Bose. See how quick Stokes' hands are? Get up, pull it down, and get it in there.
55th catch of the year for Stokes. 25 yards, 1st and goal. Here's Roberts trying the left side. George White, the top defensive player of the last 2 weeks, with a big stop there.
We'll get to this Calgary defense. There's the defensive front three. Raheem Abdullah with 8 sacks. Sheldon the Paschuk has 7 sacks on the season, a personal best year for him at nose. There's the dynamic for the outstanding linebacking core. John Grace, Brian Clark, George White, and Scott Coe. And a secondary safety, Trey Young. Colby Reinhardt on the corner. Ben Kelly opposite him.
2nd and goal from the 6. Glenn takes a long look right, now left, still looking into the end zone, and another flag. And Reinhardt drawing this as he was locked up with Jamie Stoddard.
Yeah, Colby Reinhardt can't cover that long. No one can. Doesn't matter if you're in your first year like Reinhardt or your
Pass
14th year.
interference. Calgary number 28. Penalty was in goal. It's first down, 1 yard line.
Kevin Glenn has so much time to throw the football on this play that you just can't hang on that long. This is the tail end of it. John Grace finally forces him to throw, but for a while there, he looked like he was playing Sandlot, waving guys around the back of that end zone.
A lot of steamboats, and now first and goal. Roberts. And he does not break the plane. And it'll be second down.
Well, Tom Canada was in on that play. He goes in the big team.
Glenn, you alluded to it off the top. 3 changes on the offensive line from a week ago, and you wonder about their ability to push forward against this Calgary defense on the ground. Corey Annette, Mark Parento making their first starts. Roberts again, touchdown! Nothing wrong with that surge.
All the offensive line had to do on that one is just try and cut down that defensive line and give Charles Roberts some clearance for takeoff. He's waving in. They're just waving in the private jet right there. I'd call him the jet, but he's so small. He's got to be one of those little private tutors or something. But that was airtime for Charles Roberts.
And his 11th touchdown of the season. A penalty-aided march. And now Westwood adds the extra point. Bombers aren't going to go out quietly, apparently. Great start, Winnipeg. Westwood, line drive kickoff, and David Allen has it at his 5. Picks his way across the 30 to the 32. 27-yard return.
It's gap cancellation down on the goal line. John Grace has what's called the A gap, and he overruns it. Watch George White right here. George White's got the B gap. Grace has the A gap. Now watch how they slide. You got to cancel those gaps immediately. See how Grace gets into the B gap with George White, overruns it a little bit, and Charles Roberts says, please put your seats in the upright and locked position. We're about to take off.
And now the Stampeders will try to answer back on their initial drive. Burris sets up. He wants to go deep. Jermaine Copeland in the battle. He's got it! What a catch by Copeland! And Gallant saves the touchdown, bringing him down at the 7. What a response by Jermaine Copeland.
Bombs away for both teams. Justin Coleman back in the lineup playing halfback is one-on-one with Jermaine Copeland. And Copeland gets his body in the proper position. That's the key for Copeland up here in the corner. What Copeland's going to do is fight back and then get his body in the right position. So now he's basically blocking out Justin Coleman like you would do if you're a basketball player trying to pull down a rebound. Get in front of him, block him out so your body is between the defender and the football.
Copeland's biggest play of the year at 70 yards. And now the pitch. Joffrey Reynolds. And he's cut down on a nice play by Brad Franklin at the 6. As we introduce the Calgary offense.
Joffrey Reynolds has a game in hand to try and catch Charles Roberts for the rushing title behind Henry Burris, who's playing error-free football since his return. Copeland with the big catch to start this one out. Off Nick Lewis, the leading receiver for the team. Godfrey Ellis back in at center, second straight start.
2 running back formation, Allen and Reynolds. Second and goal into the end zone. Touchdown, Nick Lewis. And the Stampeders don't waste any time getting back to even terms pending the convert.
You know, and it's a perfect call if you're going to throw the football down near the goal line area, because defensive backs playing man-to-man know they're not going to have help. So they have to take away the inside position. So the corner route is the absolute perfect call, because defensive backs take away the easy throw, the inside. In this case, it's William Fields. And Nick Lewis breaks to that corner.
3 plays. That's all it took. The big one, 70 yards. 6 to Lewis for the touchdown. DeAngelis adds the extra point, and we are tied.
running together. Both stayed right side by side through the entire warm-up, and both have Calgary right back in this game early.
Keith Stokes across the 25, runs out near the Winnipeg bench, and they'll mark him at the 32-yard line. And you wonder if it's going to be one of those shootout days as Kevin Glenn goes back to work after his opening series touchdown.
Well, Kevin Glenn and Mike Gibson, the offensive coordinator for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, have obviously decided that they're going to attack. Went deep on a couple of plays. One seam to Keith Stokes, one right off the get-go. First play of the game to Chris Brazel. And we'll see if this aggressive game plan continues.
It's the first start for Glenn against Calgary. He was injured in the early going when they met twice. Stampeders won a pair of early games, and Charles Roberts took the little dunk pass up to the 41-yard line, and he'll be close to a first down, just short.
You know, and I think everyone, the Calgary Stampeders included, knew the Winnipeg Blue Bombers would be a different team this afternoon than they were in BC Place Stadium when basically they blew it. I mean, it was flat out ugly at 41-1. In fact, Otis Floyd saying in the newspaper for the Lions afterwards that some of the players were talking about having their cars packed, which didn't bode well for Jim Daly and the rest of this organization. They will play harder today.
Second and short. Roberts has the first down at the 44 as the jumbo team came in.
And one guy that will never lay down and will never give up no matter what the circumstances is number 85, Milt Stegall.
And he was contained to just 2 catches last week, but Jim Daly said obviously that was a preoccupation of the Lions after he scorched BC for 4 long touchdowns a couple of weeks earlier, and they really schemed to shut down Stegall and were successful.
Best single game performance by a receiver in 2005, 35-year-old Milt Stegall.
Now Glenn pulls Calgary offside. Roberts caught back behind the line of scrimmage, but in all likelihood this is offside Stampeders.
And we talked about Stegall in the pregame show and the fact that he has talked about possibly retiring at the end of this season. He is doing what every player eventually faces, which is trying to balance his family life.
Calgary 91. It's a 5-yard penalty, and we'll repeat first down.
His family life and the demands of a football schedule and what that asks of a player, which is basically full-time every day trying to improve on what you do on the football field. And that means lifting weights, watching film, practice, and everything else. At 234 yards, he can still get it done at 35.
First and 5 after the offside. Short drop. And that one, oh, Brian Clark couldn't hold on. Otherwise, we had another touchdown on the board.
Brian Clark confuses Kevin Glenn by alignment. Here he is right here, and look at him right up in the line of scrimmage. He's trying to tell Kevin Glenn, look, I'm going to blitz you. I'm coming after you. And then what he does, he hangs in there for a split second so that Glenn takes his eyes off him, and he tried to one-hand it rather than get both hands on there.
Well, he had some great years in Winnipeg, and some people still wonder how they let him get away. He's been terrific as part of that fearsome foursome in Calgary. Almost another interception there through the hands of Reinhardt. Incomplete.
Yeah, I would like to mention that, though, Chris. You mentioned Brian Clark and how fans were upset that he got away. And in fairness to Brendan Taman, with respects to that, they did everything they could, but that was simply a budget issue in Winnipeg. And they wanted, believe me, they wanted Brian Clark back, and they lost the bidding war, but that was the one guy that they were real sorry they lost.
Troy Westwood is in to punt today. John Ryan injured. He will finish the season as the all-time single-season leading punter. Good punt by Westwood, and great cover led by Lamar McGreg's 45-yard punt. Nothing on the return. Mr. Deesberg in a hurry. Reynolds wrapped up Doug Brown with the tackle right at the line of scrimmage, and we'll set that Winnipeg defense for you.
Yeah, I have a thought on Deesberg in a minute, and I'll get back to that in a second. But Doug Brown back in the lineup with 5 sacks. Tom Canada having a great sophomore year with 9 sacks on the outside. Good defensive line. Joe Tuapala is starting at middle linebacker, and you go back into the secondary. Sean Gallant starts at the safety because Wes Lysak is now a Calgary Stampeder, traded earlier in the season.
2nd and 10. Burris dumps it off underneath Marte Jenkins, and he is surrounded and smothered well short of a first down by a Bomber defense that was fired up on that series.
Yeah, just that Brian Deesberg deal, and congratulations again to Brian. It couldn't happen to a nicer guy, and what a great promotion it was. Congratulations to Wendy's, who've been a great sponsor for us, the Canadian Football League. But this is a bit of a stretch, and I think I talk on behalf of all kickers right now when I say it's a little bit more complicated to put the gear on, have the rush and the hold, and kick in a real game situation. So, hey, if he really works at it and walks out, hey, anything is possible, but realistically, it was one great kick, and it'll change his life, but I doubt he'll ever play professional football.
He certainly got the kicker's attention, though. They've all been great since then. There's a huge punt, and Stokes had to field it over his shoulder, and now going nowhere as he circled the wagons. 57-yard punt. There's a pitch out. Charles Roberts off the right side. Busts a tackle. And Roberts running hard to the 52-yard line and a first down. 3 times over 1,500 yards, looking for his second CFL rushing title.
Nice execution from Kevin Glenn to attack the line of scrimmage this way, freezing the defenders out here and then pitching it outside to Charles Roberts. As he attacks the line now, Raheem Abdullah has got to commit to the quarterback, Kevin Glenn. That bounces Roberts to the outside, and he breaks the tackle right there in the open field.
At the 52, Roberts again. Little stutter step, and whoa! Big hit there, George White.
Yeah, you know, Brian Clark, they better start running away from Brian Clark, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, because he is enjoying this game. And, you know, he still wants to make up for the fact that he dropped an interception, but he has been in the Bomber backfield all game long, and he gets the first contact on Roberts, spins him around, and his buddy George White cleans him up. But Brian Clark's flying around right now.
So Roberts had 18 on the second last carry, but lost 2 there. 2nd and 10, and that one went off the helmet of Joey Bosse as Milt Stegall was ready to reel it in.
Yeah, and I think he might have got his arm up there too, Chris, and this is a great example of Joey Bosse reading Milt Stegall's eyes. He really never looks back at the quarterback and at Kevin Glenn, but what he does is he reads the receiver and he looks and he puts his arm out there right at the last second, because the eyes of Milt Stegall get big. When receivers go to catch the ball, they look like deer in the headlights for a second. Their eyes get big, and that can be an indication for your defensive back.
Perfect timing, and they get Joey Bosse and Demetrius Maxey back after long spells on the injury list, and that's a real bonus leadership-wise for the Stampeder defense. Here's Allen on a return across the 40. However, there is a penalty marker back where he fielded the punt.
Number 1 and 2 in the rushing department in this game this afternoon. Charles Roberts, 1508 coming in. Joffrey Reynolds, 1300.
Calgary, 82. First down, Calgary.
Joffrey Reynolds has that game in hand because they have one more versus the Edmonton Eskimos last game of the season. So Joffrey Reynolds is relying big time on his defense to try and hold Charles Roberts. If he can hold him to around 30, 40 yards, and he gets 100 or over 100 today, he's got a shot at catching him.
Also trying to become the first Stampeder running back to rush for 1,500 yards in a season since Willie Burton, 1975. Nick Lewis was called on the illegal block, and a little shuttle pass. Marte Jenkins drilled out at the Winnipeg kicking net at the 30-yard line. close to a first down.
Henry Burris is trying to option off Lamar McGriggs coming this way. Look at Lamar McGriggs, and McGriggs, rather than committing right away and making Burris pitch it right away, McGriggs steps upfield. Now he plays a little patience, so that freezes Henry Burris for a second, finally gets it outside to Jenkins. But Lamar McGriggs played it a little differently than Raheem Abdullah did, the opposite way when Kevin Glenn ran a very similar play.
Guess you could say Ike Charlton netted the tackle. Henry looked a little like Steve Nash there on the fast break.
Looked like a carp in the net.
First down. Burris. Protection broke down. And the pass high intended for Joffrey Reynolds.
When Brendan Taman looks at this football team in the offseason, the defense, and I think Jock Climby said it in the pregame show, is the one area of the game that they're going to have to improve on. I mean, this is record-setting numbers for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and it's numbers you don't want to be part of. And I can speak from experience on that because 1991, I happened to be in Saskatchewan, and we gave up a lot of yards. Their front four is decent, and after that, they've got to start tweaking.
183 yards short. Ron Ackerby in the backfield before the ball was snapped.
Offside. Winnipeg number 15. The 5-yard penalty. Repeat second down.
Ackerby lining up at the rush in position today without Gavin Walls, the outstanding rookie that the guys on the panel were talking about.
I think Henry Burris initially wanted that ball quickly, then he didn't get it, then he waited for it. Looked like he was surprised by it when it eventually did arrive. But Ron Ackerby was way offside.
2nd and 5. And a pass for Nick Lewis. Penalty marker down as Lewis shakes a tackle and is on the run down to the 30. However, again, we have a penalty flag. Let's find out if this 46-yard gain will stand. And it's coming back.
I think it's coming back. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers went with a stunt. Brought Tom Canada around.
Holding. Calgary number 50. 10-yard penalty. Repeat second down.
Jay McNeil is the left guard for the Calgary Stampeders. Just to the right of your screen, you can see working on Joe Fleming. He spins him around, and it's often the indication. If an offensive lineman gets his hands on you a little bit and holds you straight in front of him, he often will not get called there. But as soon as he has actually spun the defender around so he's facing the opposite direction, they have no choice but to call it. And Jay McNeil is nailed there. Takes away a big gain for the Stamps.
73 yards and penalties already for the second least penalized team in the league. Bombers actually the least penalized. Second and a bunch, and Burris look for Copeland, and it's knocked down. Franklin in coverage.
Now, part of the success of that play came from the front three. It was just a three-man rush, but Doug Brown was one of the three, and Doug Brown got some pressure up the middle. Boy, they really missed him. And one of the reasons those defensive numbers were so low is that they didn't have Doug Brown for a bunch of games due to a foot injury.
Yeah, and keep the skipping rope away from Doug Brown.
Yeah, Milt Stiegel talked to him about a different training technique which involves skipping. And Doug Brown gave it a shot and hurt his foot doing it. And just the image of Doug Brown skipping is one that I just can't get my head around.
This was a short kick, and Calise got a hand on it, so that will be no yards interference. And the Bombers are going to get the ball on the Calgary side of half here. 32-yard punt by Burke Dales after he sailed his first 57 yards. Well, this week on CFL Wendy's Friday Night Football, the Alouettes take on the Ticats in Hamilton. Coverage begins at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. Available at TSN HD. And can it really be the last Friday night of the year?
It is. Playoffs around the corner. The Pumpkins are out.
No yards.
Although there's no
Calgary player. It's a 15-yard penalty. First down.
Although there's really no frost on the Pumpkin here in Winnipeg, it's an absolutely perfect afternoon for football. There's our TSN version.
Guys are in the spirit of the occasion. So are you. I notice you're wearing a pink shirt, which is a different costume for you.
Yeah. Hey, not everybody can wear pink. I'm not sure if I can either, to be quite honest with you.
And I've got this mask I'm saddled with all the time. So a net of 17 after the short punt and the 15-yard penalty. Roberts to the 40. Couple for Charles Roberts. Sheldon Napaschuk came up with the ball, but they've whistled it dead.
I mentioned in the introduction, Sheldon Napaschuk is having a career year coming into this season. Last year was his personal best season when he had 4 sacks. 13 career in his 7th season in the CFL, and he has 7 this year. And then he's basically blown the doors off his personal best.
Should be the final play, first quarter, 2nd and 8. Pumped by Glenn, who pulls it down now and just gets underneath a couple of heavy hits to get to the line of scrimmage. It'll be 3rd down, Bombers, when we come back. First quarter stats are brought to you by Rona, the how-to people.
It looks like the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have a bit of an edge in most categories except for net yards, and they do in time of possession, but really neither team's been able to really sustain a drive other than their first drives of the game. And those numbers for the Calgary Stampeders would look a lot better if they had the 46-yarder from Nick Lewis and whatever else they got on that drive without that Jay McNeil holding call.
Defensive has settled down. Troy Westwood to attempt from 47, which would match a season high, 8 for his last 8. And he brings this one in and through. Make it 9 straight for Troy. And that pushes him right to the Glenn Suter 70% Mendoza line.
Yeah, the veterans are making a comeback, and congratulations to Sean Fleming as well, nailing a game winner against the BC Lions. But talk about a guy who's playing his best football down the stretch and coming back from injury has been Henry Burrs for the Calgary Stampeders. And boy, it was difficult conditions for Burrs in what everyone called the Burrs Bowl. In tough conditions at Taylor Field, not weather conditions, being public enemy #1 in that province. He fought the crowd, had a bumpy first half, stuck with it, and finished off strong, coming back from down 19.
And that's a great shot to end on, because some of the fans were even on Henry at the end of the game about the fact there were no touchdowns by him in the game. He hadn't got that done, and he pointed to the horse and he said, this is all about the team. And it was a huge team win.
Well, and it's all about the scoreboard and what it says on the scoreboard.
And the Stampeders very quietly have won 5 of 6. Fumble, that ball loose, and who's on it? Looks like the Stampeders get it back. And Mike Juhas from the bottom of the pile bailed out the Stampeders there.
Matt Dunnigan talked about it in the pregame show as well, and how turnovers at this time of year for playoff teams can really turn the tide, and that ball comes out.
Ike Charlton with the forced fumble.
Clearly a fumble, and you're right, a teammate bails out David Allen.
Under this new Calgary formation, bunching left, and David Allen running it hard across the 40 up to about the 42-yard line.
Tom Higgins sort of mentioned to us just prior to kickoff that we may see a little more David Allen, and not because there's any kind of problem, issue, or question with Joffrey Reynolds, but Damon Allen could provide another weapon down the stretch, meaning if you line him up in the backfield and release him and use him like an Archie Amerson or a Mike Clemens back in the old days, sort of a back that becomes a receiver out of the backfield, and what you do then is see how the defense responds. If they leave linebackers in, do they change personnel to cover them? There's a lot of ways that you can attack a different defense with a personnel with guys like David Allen, who can become a receiver.
But the length of the football short of a first down here. Allen played 19 games with Jacksonville, He was the leading all-purpose man in NFL Europe, and Steve Barato's got another weapon to work with.
And we'll see exactly how he uses Allen. And right now they're both in the backfield. David Allen and Joffrey Reynolds side by side.
And they'll just plunge ahead and get the first down.
See, David Allen back there with Joffrey Reynolds is another situation that puts the Winnipeg Blue Bombers linebacking core in a bind. I mean, because now if you don't sub, there's Lamar McGriggs right now. If you don't sub a defensive back for Lamar McGriggs or Woodson over here, now if David Allen gets out, does Lamar McGriggs go with him? That's the one-on-one you might want to look for if you're Calgary Stampeders.
First down, and the pitch to the left side. And Allen, the ball carrier, once again to the 49.
See, now that works to Lamar McGriggs' favor there because it's a running play, and Lamar McGriggs as a linebacker is a good run stopper. So that particular play call from Steve Barato plays into Lamar McGriggs' hands in the matchup. If they get David Allen outside and get him one-on-one in a pass route, it works to Calgary's favor, and we will see that, I'm sure, before this game is over.
Second and 6 Stampeders. And here is Allen again out of the backfield. And McGriggs bounces him out. So the game within the game is developing.
It sure is. And it right on cue, I might add, because now you get Lamar McGriggs in that one-on-one coverage. See, now there's the matchup again. Here's David Allen. And this time he comes outside and he gets out of the coverage. Now Lamar McGriggs is in chase and he's a good 4 or 5 yards behind him. So now how do you line up David Allen this time? And there he goes out of the backfield again to the right of your screen, but the Bombers have made a substitution.
Joffrey Reynolds this time up the middle to the 45, and a couple for Reynolds.
This time when they get David Allen outside, see, they made a substitution, but this time even the matchup works for Calgary again. And I'll show you one more time. David Allen has left this formation to the right side of your screen. Covering David Allen out there, even though they go with the running play, was Ron Ockamy. And Ron Ockamy is a matchup that I'm sure Calgary Stampeders would love to see.
2nd and 7. And there's a completion over the middle. Nick Lewis with the catch and a first down at the 31-yard line. So the offense for Calgary is, like most offenses, in a steady evolution.
Oh, absolutely, and especially when you have new talent. David Allen hasn't been there the entire year, and David Allen is a guy that they really haven't tapped into. So Steve Barato, as the weeks go on, try to figure out exactly what he does well and how can they best utilize that.
First down, Joffrey Reynolds kicks it inside the 15. Reynolds pushed down by Sean Woodson at the 4. That's a 27-yard run for the number 2 running back in the CFL.
Now the other thing that it does, and I'll just extend this even a little further, watch Ron Ockamy right here and David Allen. Because he is worried about him, he widens, and guess what hole Joffrey Reynolds runs through? Ockamy is so concerned with David Allen now, he steps out with him and goes outside. That opens up a running lane for Joffrey Reynolds, and he is gone.
First and goal from the 4. And a pitch to Reynolds. Inside, maybe a yard.
Now, Sean Woodson is a guy who just over 30 years old and a guy who can be back with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, having a tremendous season. 3 sacks, 83 tackles for Sean Woodson, which is the leader amongst his teammates.
So the 9th play of the drive. 2nd and goal from the 3. Burris looking for Copeland. Incomplete. There's a flag down in the end zone.
Well, we'll see if Burris gets another chance, and I know he would like one because David Allen was wide open there. And I'm not sure if he overthrew Allen and put it in between the two.
Illegal contact on a receiver. Winnipeg number 2. Half the distance to the goal. First down.
Former Stampeder William Fields draws the flag.
And he will get another chance. David Allen ran right by Lamar McGriggs and was wide open, just about 3 yards inside the end zone there, and was sort of in the sight line of Henry Burris, but Burris missed him. But William Fields gives him another chance.
So from just inside the 1, Burris plunging in. Touchdown, Henry Burris. Eighth touchdown for Burris on the year. Ties him with Kerry Joseph. Ricky Ray for the lead among quarterbacks in rushing touchdowns.
Well, and for Henry Burris, they've not all been on this kind of play where it's basically a 1 or 2 yard quarterback sneak. Henry Burris has 457 yards rushing coming into this game, a 6.3 yard average, another dimension of his game.
You know, Glenn, I was going to mention it earlier on a 2nd and short situation as DeAngelis adds the extra point. A little surprised with that bad thumb that they're letting Henry do that, but it worked, and the Stampeders have the lead. Of the game for Smilin' Hank and the Stampeders.
Calgary Stampeders wanted to get out in front of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, with the theory being if you get in front of a team that's out of the playoffs, they'll basically pack it up.
Chris Brazel. Up to the 40, Mark Mitchell finally pulls the fleet wide receiver down. Jim Daly yesterday talked about Kevin Glenn being one of the positives of the year, and that they've started to build a supporting cast around Glenn. Not off to a fast start today, but it's interesting that his stats are fairly comparable with the man on the other side of the field, his adversary today, Henry Burris. First down, and Glenn finds Stiegel, his first catch of the day, and Milt leans forward with Scott Coe hanging off him, close to a first down.
It is interesting, Chris, because when you look at the numbers between these two quarterbacks and you were just basing it on the numbers, you wouldn't know which quarterback was going into the playoffs and which wasn't. I mean, both have played pretty well this season, and both have played in 14 games. But there is, having said that, and the numbers that Kevin Glenn has put up this season, there is still some doubt as to whether or not Kevin Glenn is the answer in Winnipeg, if you listen to the call-in radio shows and some of the newspaper articles, etc.
And that, I guess, is inherent with a 5-win year. But when you consider, especially at the start of the year, what a weak supporting cast. I mean, for a while it was only Milt Stiegel in the receiving corps. They've got a great running back, but now they've added Brazel.
And maybe more than any other quarterback, because certainly Kevin Glenn's numbers indicate that he deserves a shot at it next year anyway, at the very least. But I would say that he's a quarterback that definitely needs those weapons around him. He has Charles Roberts, he has Milt Stiegel. They need to add another big-time receiver to the outside.
Keith Stokes has helped now that he has become a more regular fixture in the offense.
He certainly has, but they have bigger issues on the other side of the ball.
Demetrius Maxey's been shaken up, so we'll take a timeout here at Canadians. Break.
Or eat, maybe.
Here's Kevin Glenn and the option, and whoa, low bridge there. Terrence Patrick meeting Glenn right at the line of scrimmage.
In the break, Jim Daly was over talking to his defense and trying to figure out how to deal with David Allen, and you can see how he's got the defense. Watch what he's going to do. He says when there are two backs and Joffrey Reynolds in there and that's David Allen, he is a receiver. Consider him 5R. In other words, the 5th receiver out of the backfield. And how are we going to deal with that? We deal with that with DBs.
2nd and 10. Glenn looking downfield for Keith Stokes. Trey Young plays center field and has the interception at the 25-yard line, the 3rd pick of the season for the Calgary Stampeders safety.
Kevin Glenn is going to telegraph this baby to Trey Young, and Trey Young in his rookie season at safety is going to take it and run with it. Watch Kevin Glenn from the quarterback spot. Look left, look left, look left, throw left. He's got 2 seams going down there, but Trey Young had nothing on the backside that would indicate he should hang there, so he flew over and tracked that football down.
You know, he has been a big plus for the Stampeders. His 12th start, they really weren't getting anything out of Donnie McGee early in the year. He was a reserve linebacker and has really helped solidify the back end for Calgary. Ball squirted loose after the whistle. Joffrey Reynolds, the ball carrier.
That's interesting on that first play. We'll see how now the Winnipeg Blue Bombers on a passing down deal with the Calgary formation and whether or not Steve Barretto continues to work David Allen into it.
Osterhaus and McGriggs come out.
And he's kept Allen out of this series.
Akami into the game. At rush in. 2nd and 8. Burris on the run, looking downfield. Kenyon Rambo's got it. At the 30-yard line, Rambo stretches out, and a former Gladiator comes up with a big play.
Well, it's a big play because he breaks his initial route and reacts to Henry Burris breaking contain. See, when Henry Burris gets outside, we talked about his ability to run the football. Now it puts the defense in a bind. Do I come up and tackle Burris? Do I break it off? Now, in the scramble rule, receivers understand if you have a short route, you turn it deep. You have a deep route, you come back. Rambo had the short route, turned it deep,
and got behind Omar Evans for 53 yards. Here's Marte Jenkins reversing field. Brad Franklin just got him. And a long way to run just to get back to the line of scrimmage. And Jenkins knew if he could avoid Franklin, he'd still be running.
When Jenkins came all the way back, Henry Burris is actually going to get a block on John Osterhaus. Here he puts on the brakes, and then eyes coming back, and Burris steps in front of 77 Osterhaus. That was the left of your screen, but Franklin then had time to come up and make the tackle. It was a good one in the open field.
2nd and 9. Burris looking for Brett Ralph. Incomplete.
You know, it's interesting. We talked about the matchup that Barretto was trying to create and was creating with David Allen, and in fact showed you Jim Daly making the adjustments. Now it's interesting that Barretto comes back in this series and goes with the 5R formation. In other words, 5 receivers, but are all natural receivers, not running backs. So Steve Barretto is essentially saying to the opposite side, he's saying, look, we're not going to give you a steady diet. Now you have to react back to our other formation, and maybe we throw David Allen in again later.
Sander DeAngelis, 6 of 7 last week at Taylor Field. And he adds to his rookie case with 3 more. First down for Kevin Glenn. Gonna get picked up. Brian Clark, the former Bomber, enjoying a big day. There's a flag down, and Clark gonna race to the end zone, pinching it. Kobe Reinhardt, touchdown. However, there is a flag.
See what the flag is, but this is the athleticism of the linebacking core for the Calgary Stampeders.
Winnipeg 53. Penalty is declined. Touchdown.
Holding Winnipeg, that baby will be declined, and that counts for Brian Clark. And it all is created because the athletic ability of this linebacking core is incredible. They can get so much depth in their pass drops and help the secondary out in such a big way. Clark is a good 20 yards deep when he intercepts this pass.
2nd interception of the year. Looked like he was headed for his 2nd touchdown, but then flipped it off, and Kobe Reinhardt will celebrate his first Canadian Football League major score. And that'll help the team atmosphere when a guy unselfishly gives it up. I guess he sized it up, wasn't sure he was going to beat Keith Stokes to the end zone, but looked like he had a pretty good shot at it.
No, but you know, I agree with you, Chris, because it's kind of like in hockey, you know, when
Time
you're going in
violation.
2-0 on the empty net at the end of a game and you pass it
Number
off to
12.
give it to your teammate. I think Clark could have got there, and he knew he could have got there, but he tossed it out there and gave it to Kobe Reinhart and gave him the stat for the touchdown.
Now he's giving somebody the business because Calgary wasn't set there, and a time count violation will take the convert attempt back 5 yards. Extra point is good by DeAngelis, and it's a 14-point Stampeder lead. And that great linebacking core is now combined for 7 interceptions on the year.
Brian Clark is playing this game kind of like he knows his opponent pretty well. He's kind of playing this game like he's read their mail. And for years he played alongside a lot of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And does understand their tendencies very well and practiced against them. When you practice against a guy that long, or an entire offense that long, you get a chance to learn exactly what they like to do. And Clark's playing that way in this game. He's been in the backfield a ton. He had an early interception that was dropped that was a touchdown, and he makes up for it right there.
I wondered if he could get there on his own.
That's a great cutback too, and watch how smooth he pitches this out to Kobe Reinhart. That's like running the option from the quarterback position. I think he could have made it in.
Well, and you know, we talked to him last night. He was a former quarterback, and right through till his senior year in high school. And I said, did you ever think of going on as a quarterback? And he said, no, I didn't really like it. I was, you know, I played both sides of the ball, and I liked being a safety because you could hit people. And quarterback, done a whole lot of that.
Quarterback, you get hit. Safety, linebacker, you can do the hitting. It's the question, you'd rather be the hammer or the nail. All the quarterbacks have a nice paycheck.
So I know you were the same high school quarterback.
Yes.
Turned safety.
Yeah, but that was out of necessity.
He's Stokes dancing and brought down as he crossed the 25. Well, in one game this year, that Calgary defense scored 2 touchdowns, and it came against Hamilton. John Grace got the first.
Grace walks in after the ball was tipped up in the air, and this was late. Brian Clark, again, a nice cutback. He's showing a little tendency of his own right there. When he intercepts a pass, he's going to cut to his right and outruns a Hamilton Tiger Cat football team that
was 92 yards.
Was struggling big time by that time. They got out to a good start there, Hamilton, and then Calgary just came flying back in the second half. And look at the numbers. 3 of the 4 linebackers in the top 10 in tackling, and Brian Clark right on the doorstep.
Kevin Glenn trying to get this offense back in gear, and he has Chris Brazel for a first down. 3-minute warning given to the benches here. First half in Winnipeg. Bombers are out for the second straight year. And Kevin Glenn has Stiegel up at the 42-yard line.
And this time, Kevin Glenn got more of a true drop from the linebackers, which is why Milt Stiegel was open in behind them. Stiegel's right here, starts in the slot back position. He's going to work his way in behind the linebackers, and this is what is typical of most drop distances. This time, Brian Clark is up around 10-15 yards. On that interception by Clark, he was back at 20, and that's why Kevin Glenn didn't count him.
Now Glenn, and it's dumped off. Keith Stokes drops the football. Just going to mention Kevin Glenn has thrown 2 interceptions in this first half. He has not thrown more than 2 in any game this year.
Well, that's one thing, that one of the reasons that you mentioned Jim Daly liking Kevin Glenn and thinking he can be the answer here in Winnipeg offensively is because he can manage a game. He's proven that this year, and managing meaning not necessarily always having huge numbers, 400 yards passing, but not turning it over, just getting the football to your talent.
2nd and 10. Flag down. Stokes over the middle. This time makes the catch. Stokes brought down near the first down at the 32. But there again is a penalty marker. And the Bombers may have been offside.
You know, just through lack of reps, you mentioned earlier, Chris, the contribution Keith Stokes has made in the lineup offensively, and I agree with you in a big way, because when Keith Stokes...
Illegal procedure, illegal formation. Tackle was not up. It's a 5-yard penalty against Winnipeg. Repeat, second down.
It'll be second down over, this time about 15 yards for the first down. But Stokes is a little inconsistent as a receiver still. And this offseason, if he really works hard on his hands and just becoming a little more consistent with his hands, and it's just a lack of reps. Keith Stokes has not played a lot of reps offensively. But he could be even that much more valuable.
Because once he gets the ball in his hands, he's dangerous. 2nd and 15. Roberts underneath. Roberts gets a block. Straight ahead down to the 39-yard line. Checked at the 34. He'll be still a couple of yards short, maybe 3.
Is he close enough where Jim Daly may make a decision here?
Well, they got
almost 2, a long yard at the very least.
And it looks like they're going to call a timeout. Think about it. It is a yard to 2 short of the first down. Just a final thought on Stokes, asking Jim Daly about him yesterday. He thinks ideally 5th receiver, and in the Winnipeg offense, that's in for about 2/3 of the plays, and he'll still have the legs to be the regular return man, because you don't want him to be a full-time offensive player and take away from being one of the best returners in the CFL.
Excellent point. Special teams, very important as well. A third of the game.
Third down on a hold.
TSN is your home for NFL Sunday Night Football tonight. It's Buffalo taking on the Patriots in New England tonight. A special night as Teddy Bruschi returns to that Patriots lineup. Coverage begins with NFL Prime Time, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, and it's available in TSN HD.
Yeah, good for Teddy Bruschi. Yeah, that's a difficult situation, suffering a stroke and then fighting back to get back in a football lineup. Wow. But he's a linebacker.
3rd and 2, and it's Brazel for the first down. Bose the tackle, but Brazel gives Winnipeg a fresh set of downs.
Well, Jim Daly did leave Charles Roberts in the backfield with the option then to run the football, because there's Roberts. But Roberts kind of comes up early enough that he tells the Calgary defense, not only are we gambling on 3rd down, but we're throwing the football.
Under 2 minutes remaining. Here's that option flip, and it's Roberts with some room, but a flag down as Sir Charles is inside the 5. Whoa, Brian Clark with another enormous hit. And this one likely all for naught anyway.
We'll see what happens.
Foul. Unnecessary roughness. Calgary, 56. Half the distance to the goal and first down.
Oh, it was Scott Coe on the other side, and he's pleading his case.
Yeah. And he can't believe it was him that was called. Let's take a look on the option now. Kevin Glenn's coming down now. To Raheem Abdullah there, he is just a running back. I mean, you can't protect the quarterback on a play like that. He's running the option. He's got a target on him like anyone else.
Well, the 18-yard run stands. 1st and goal from the 2. Charles Roberts, touchdown. His 2nd of the game.
Well, Jim Daly gambles on 3rd down with a throw to Chris Brazel, and the gamble pays off in a big way for him. He gets the option play and run from Charles Roberts to get him on the doorstep, and this time Roberts waits a second before he goes airborne.
So 2 touchdowns for Winnipeg in the first half against a Calgary defense that doesn't surrender a lot of them. Saskatchewan without an offensive touchdown last week. A left-footed convert from Westwood. And Winnipeg back within 7. But Joffrey Reynolds to close in on that rushing lead. Sir Charles trying to claim it here today.
Well, there, and he keeps adding to it, making it tougher for Reynolds. But, you know, that's one thing you wonder in some ways with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. You know, they got the leading rusher in the league. They've got a quarterback whose numbers look very good. Chris Brazel is an addition into this receiving corps with Stiegel,
who leads the league in touchdown catches. Here's Allen up to the 40. Brought down by McGriggs.
And if Charles Roberts keeps running like he did on that option play, then Charles Roberts will have the rushing title at the end of the year. There he is to the right of your screen right here. And watch how he finishes this play off. I mean, first of all, catches. Now he's got some room and some space, so he's going to use his speed to get to the outside. And once he's there now, just a few more moves. And look at how good he is in the open field.
That great run came to an abrupt end, but it set them up for the touchdown. Here's Reynolds, stacked up, and Tom Canada in to finish him off.
Now, Joffrey Reynolds is a very different style of running back, obviously, and different size running back than Charles Roberts, who's 170 pounds. And, you know, you got Joffrey Reynolds at 220 pounds. More of a power back that's going to hit the hole hard going downhill. But, you know, Joffrey Reynolds, if it happens in Edmonton in the playoffs, is probably better suited than Charles Roberts.
Reynolds with 3 100-yard rushing games in the last 4. Second and long, and Rambo has another catch and a first down in front of Omar Evans.
But Chris, we were mentioning that about Kevin Glenn's numbers look pretty good. Charles Roberts leading the league. But here again is the reason that this team has struggled this year. They've scored some points and they played offensively pretty well at times. What they haven't done is stopped anybody when they had to, and that's what Jim Daly knows. We saw Jim Daly earlier on drawing up defenses to make adjustments. They lost Rod Russ, their defensive coordinator, and that's hurt them.
And now just 35 yards away from the worst all-time defensive yardage record. Joe Fleming in on that stop with Osterhaus.
And it's not just, you know, when you look at the yardage, it's sometimes stats can be misleading, and fortunately for Winnipeg this year, they're not, because when they've really needed the big stop, like even right now, you know, they need the big stop right now. See if they can get it in this series. But when you really need the big stop, you have the defense, you have the horses to do it. In Winnipeg, at least in the back end, haven't this year.
Here's one of those big stop plays, second and long, trying to avoid more Calgary points before the half. Burris flushed and nailed. Oh, Henry Burris took a lick from Joe Fleming and Lamar McGriggs.
You know, and if they had more stops like this in key situations during the season, then they'd be in a very different situation. And that's the bottom line, is because they just haven't seen enough of that type of play on second and long. Right after they have scored, to come in and stop the opponent so they can build on the momentum of a Charles Roberts touchdown.
38 seconds left in the half. We've talked a little bit about McGriggs today at 37. Many feel this may be his final game. He'd like to come back. Stokes is back, awaiting the Burkdale's punt. High kick. Stokes from his 2. And Randy Chevrier did a nice job of containing. And Stokes stopped in his tracks by George White. A 53-yard punt.
Not a bad decision for Stokes to just try and break something there. It's only 7 seconds left in the half, so, you know, they can just basically get out of this half without getting in any trouble. If there was 1 minute and 7 seconds, then I'm in a different situation. But Stokes can fight and see, because he has broken a couple of tackles and made something out of nothing before.
So one more play. I'm going to say good hustle by Chevrier. He always seems to be the first guy down, the long snapper. Good hustle on that special teams unit for the Stamps. And George White, one of the leading special teams tacklers, as they will need one more play to kill the clock. So it will be a 1-touchdown lead. The difference in the game, the Brian Clark interception that he pitched off to Kobe Reinhart for a defensive touchdown.
Yeah, Clark's having himself an afternoon.
And that's 30 minutes in the books. A high-scoring first half. And the Stampeders, they quit last week. He said there's a difference between quitting and a lack of intensity, and he's had better intensity here in the season finale. David Allen out to the 37-yard line. Again, Lamar McGriggs involved in the tackle.
Take a look at the quarterbacks after a half of football. Kevin Glenn with the 2 interceptions. That's really, you know, his yardage not real impressive, but the interceptions what's hurt him. Should have been maybe 3. Brian Clark had an easy one early that he dropped. And Henry Burris putting together a good half. And again, no interceptions, no turnovers for Henry Burris. It's 2.5 games now since his return. And consider the fact he's playing with a cast on his left hand. He has not turned the football over.
First down, here's Reynolds. At the 41, 3 for Joffrey Reynolds.
Steve Barato, the offensive coordinator, throwing in some wrinkles with we saw with Dave Glenn, and in his first half possessions, you see the 3 touchdowns. And last week versus Saskatchewan, Calgary Stampeders, Matt Dunnigan talked about it in the pregame show. 0 for 5 in the red zone. For them, it's inside the 20. They came away with field goals. 0 for 5, meaning no majors. This year, tonight, they're 2 for 2.
2nd and 6. And Reynolds out of the backfield has the first down. Woodson and McGriggs bring him down, but not before he crosses midfield.
So as well as Henry Burris has been playing with regards to protecting the ball, managing the game, even with the cast in his hand, he and Steve Barato were concerned about red zone production, coming away with majors when you have a chance to score. Because when they play good teams, which they will in the playoffs, they're going to have to finish those drives. And Henry Burris has done that in this game this afternoon.
Steve Barato's working on the playoff beard. That's a theme in the Calgary camp. Here's Reynolds churning up the yards and down to the 35. They want to be in playoff mode, and they look like they're ready for the postseason.
Yeah, Steve Barato's got a good jump on that playoff beard there. There is a good look at it. He's got that beard going, and it's that time of year.
And just to clarify, it was Calgary without a major score offensively last week against Saskatchewan, not the other way around. Nick Lewis with that fumble recovery after the punt by McCallum, and then 6 DeAngelis field goals was the damage last week at Taylor Field.
And for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Chris, it is now official. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers will go in the record book. The 2005 edition of their defensive football team has given up more yards per game than any team CFL history. And that's what Jim Daly has to fix.
Just the one thing we haven't talked about is, I think you were part of the last team. Here's David Allen. David Allen, touchdown. And so David Allen becomes a bigger part of that Calgary offense.
Steve Barato put him in early. And we talked about the adjustments that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers were trying to make. Then he went away from it a little bit. And then he goes back to David Allen, and there he is. 22-yard touchdown run.
I think we've got a little technical malfunction downstairs, so unable to show you that replay, but 5 plays, 73 yards, and an Allen run for a touchdown here in Winnipeg. A couple of weeks ago, David Allen's first touchdown in the CFL was a reception against Hamilton, and here a 22-yard run is first on the ground, and the Stampeders have a 2-touchdown lead. Stokes changes direction. Got one big block, but Brian Clark is everywhere this afternoon. What a game he's having against his old team as we take another look at the David Allen 22-yard score.
David Allen's right here, and he's going to end up over here, so he needs one block, and that's from guard Jay McNeil. Watch the kick out on Osterhaus. John Osterhaus got to fill that gap. There's the big block by McNeil. He comes across, pulling from his guard position, and then David Allen does the rest. A little bit of misdirection. Fake to Joffrey Reynolds. Up inside to David Allen. Good block from Jay McNeil, and Allen is in pay dirt.
Now the Bombers have to answer back. Shovel to Roberts. And that one well snuffed out by Raheem Abdullah.
You know, they've been optioning Raheem Abdullah all game, and it's often been Kevin Glenn attacking Abdullah, forcing Abdullah to tackle the quarterback, and then they pitch it backwards to Charles Roberts. This time they tried it in a reverse way and went underneath to Roberts, and this time Raheem Abdullah had seen enough.
Abdullah having a big year, 8 quarterback sacks, 5 knockdowns off the edge for Calgary. 2nd and 7. Big pressure. Kevin Glenn gets out of trouble and throws it upfield, and this is picked off. Joey Bose with the interception, his first of the year. And the fans get on Kevin Glenn.
Well, Kevin Glenn, first of all, it's a heroic effort to just get loose. And the problem was Milt Stiegel's going to fall down. I mean, Milt Stiegel usually wins this battle, and Kevin Glenn felt he was going to win that battle again and had position. But right there, he slipped and fell. And when he did, Joey Bose got the easy interception. But this effort here alone, you know, that should be one that the fans don't boo but applaud. He's doing everything he can. He had tremendous pressure.
First 3 interception game of the year for Glenn, and Marte Jenkins a catch to the 26, or just outside the 25, and he'll be less than a yard short of a first down.
But you saw how Joey Bose and Milt Stiegel were battling, and Kevin Glenn, in fairness to him, he felt that Milt Stiegel had body position and had a chance at that football. Then he falls, and then it's over.
And the Stamps can really take a stranglehold on this one. And again, they talked about get an early lead and discourage a team that's going home after this game's over. And Burris again, big surge behind Godfrey Ellis, Taylor Robertson, Jay McNeil. Ellis getting his 6th start at center. Jamie Crysdale has had his knee scoped. They hope he can be available for the postseason. But the rookie Ellis has been able to help out in a big way. He's had a lot more work this year than I think they anticipated.
Oh, and played different positions, and that's very difficult. It may seem easy because they're all up there on that line at the same, but even going from left tackle to right tackle is a huge adjustment.
Here's Jenkins on the hitch, and Jenkins has another first down. Pulled down by William Fields.
The other thing that to me is remarkable, Chris, when you talk about Godfrey Ellis, is last week he had to face Schultz and Nate Davis. And this week he goes up against Joe Fleming and Doug Brown. And almost always Doug Brown. And here's what he has to do. He has to take on 2 great interior linemen, Doug Brown, Nate Davis. Doesn't get any better than that. Then he has to snap the football. Then he has to make the calls. And he's a young rookie. I mean, that's incredible for Godfrey Ellis.
Just 3 years of football for Godfrey Ellis out of Acadia. David Allen, the ball carrier. And down to the 7.
Now, he does have the help of Jay McNeil right beside him. And that, you know, that's very valuable help. That any time that he breaks the huddle, he can look to Jay McNeil and ask a quick question. You know, and Jay McNeil would have the answer.
And we should mention this. Stamps offensive line doesn't get a lot of attention, but 2nd in the league in sacks allowed at 27, and they've got the 2nd best running back in the league, so they get the job done up there. Second and goal, and it's a touchdown. Jermaine Copeland in front of Justin Coleman.
And what made it even much tougher for Jermaine Copeland as he cut across the middle there was he had to get in front of an inside position on the defender, but he also had to avoid the umpire. So you're going to see from the right of your screen, here he comes inside and he has to make a quick adjustment to go in behind the umpire and inside position on the DB.
Was a penalty marker on the play.
Objectionable conduct, taunting, Calgary number 80. The penalty occurred after the touchdown was scored. The 10-yard penalty will be applied on the kickoff.
That's not taunting, it's dancing, isn't it? Isn't that Jermaine Copeland's deal? He's
didn't get a good look at the choreography on the last one. I mean, the bicycle, I think, has become one of the more innovative. Although I know the guys in the truck feel it's a little over the top, but for creativity, I thought the bike celebration was interesting.
We could do a whole show on whether or not you like it, and whether or not it's a good thing to do all that celebration, but there are some that do like it, and Jermaine Copeland is a master at it. And I don't know if that's taunting, but
for every sack in today's game, Purolator donates the quarterback's weighed-in food to help a local food bank. Every sack helps Purolator tackle hunger across Canada. No donations yet today, and the Stamps are on the heels of the Edmonton Eskimos, and they want to win the sack plaque and be first overall.
They're after that. Of the 45 sacks, 19 from the linebackers for Calgary, 24 from the D-line, and a couple from Trey Young, the safety spot.
Stokes bounces off Bose. And a late flag as Stokes drops the ball across the 50. Looks like the Bombers got back on it.
It was a late flag, which would mean that probably most of, if it's against the Bombers, I should say, most of Keith Stokes' yardage will remain. You know, Keith Stokes made the tackle on the Joey Bose interception, and he was fired up. In fact, he threw a couple of shots at Bose.
Block. Winnipeg, 10-yard penalty. First down.
Well, it was from where he caught the ball way back there, not after yards gained.
So a 3-touchdown lead for the Stampeders as Kevin Glenn goes back to work. Scott Robinson the catch, and Pascal Masson is there to bring him down quickly. Short gain.
George White went on a blitz there, Chris, and you know we've talked many times about these tremendous linebackers for the Calgary Stampeders, and George White may be my first pick if I were picking all-stars out of that group. I mean, they're all great, and don't get me wrong when I say this, and it's no disrespect to Brian Clark, but George White, to me, is my first one out of that group.
Again, defensive player of the week the last two. Second down. And Stokes lost his footing as he tried to change direction and ends up with no gain on the play.
There's a couple of reasons. One is the degree of difficulty. One thing that George White is asked to do that a lot of the other linebackers are not is to cover receivers, and he from the linebacker position can run with most of them in the league, if not all. That's one thing. So his degree of difficulty in what he's asked to do is higher than a lot of the other linebackers. The other thing that George White, to me, 96 tackles on the defense, but 16 special teams tackles. He also leads the team in that category.
David Allen steps out after fielding that short punt. 5:50 to go, third quarter.
On Ryan John, originally it was expected to be a sprained ankle, but it's a lot more than that.
Yeah, they on the sideline of the BC game, they thought it might be sprained, so they taped it up, and I finished the game. And we later found out that I had torn the ligament off the bone, so it'll be a little bit more serious than a sprained ankle, I guess.
A dream season almost. You set up a record for punting average. What was the difference this year?
I think I was just a lot more confident than in my rookie season. I felt a lot more comfortable out on the field, and I'd gained a lot of strength in the offseason. I think that was where, the biggest difference this season.
Thank you very much.
Burris to the sidelines. Brett Ralph with a catch and a first down.
It was pretty incredible when you look at what John Ryan accomplished and how many times he kicked this football team out of trouble. 50.6 per kick. Remember, he kicks in Winnipeg, so a lot of those were in the wind.
Absolutely, it's a remarkable achievement, and it was some of the all-time greats. Kenyon Rambo close to another first down as the Stamps are moving consistently again against this defense that will go down in history and get Glenn Suter and the 91 Saskatchewan Roughriders off the hook.
91, let's see, I don't remember that. Just try and have a...
Yeah, you've got selective memory, are you saying?
Selective memory, 1991. Let's see. No, 89 I recall. 91. No, we gave up a lot of yards.
Yep.
But we're not first anymore.
It wasn't 89, it was 91. Copeland in traffic with another big catch.
Well, the Bombers defensively will have to have a selective memory at the end of this year because it's been a roller coaster. It's been one that's been a lot of dips and not too many hilltops because the secondary went through so many changes. Front four you can win without question. The linebacking core showed its age this year with Rylan Wickman in the middle, who's likely finished as a Bomber. And even Lamar McGriggs, who didn't play terrible, but is getting up there in age. Their age showed a little this year.
First down, big rush, over the middle. Oh, Rambo lost his lid, but held on to the ball.
Well, and then the guy that just hit Rambo over the middle, Sean Gallant, was put in at safety after the trade with Wes Lysak. Made him a Calgary Stampeder once again. There's the hit from Sean Gallant, who they feel could be the free safety. He's right in the middle of your screen right there. And has the experience. He's got 6 years in the Canadian Football League. His first in Winnipeg. It was Saskatchewan.
2nd and 3, David Allen trying to get outside, and he'll be wrapped up and pushed back as Mike Charlton.
How about the Calgary Stampeders? Now, there's all kinds of talk this year about the fact that the BC Lions and the Edmonton Eskimos are the class of the West, and Calgary is sliding under the radar heading into this playoffs. And Tom Higgins, he said before the game that, we're not going to be under the radar for long. I think people in football know that this is a pretty good team. You saw Henry Burris's numbers. He's protecting the ball. You've got a good kicker in Sandro DeAngelis, who's back on track, and a solid defense. And this team better not look past him.
DeAngelis attempting from 30, and he misses. It'll go for a single point. And it's 39-17. Reminder to text message your vote for the player of the game in the 4th quarter. Use your Rogers phone and send to Go CFL. Kevin Glenn. And this one nearly picked off. Reinhardt unable to skim it off the turf, and Kevin Glenn getting a rougher ride than I might have expected here.
Yeah, and we talked about Kevin Glenn at the beginning of the game, saying that, there are a lot here that people still have questions. There are a lot of fans that are still wondering if Kevin Glenn, despite good numbers this year, is the answer in a game like this on the last game of the season where he's had some problems, thrown some interceptions. Well, that'll just stir things up even more this offseason.
2nd and 10. Here comes the rush. And Glenn is down, and Sheldon Napaschuk is there for his 8th sack of the season. Career high for Napaschuk.
Kevin Glenn in this second half. I agreed with Jim Daly coming out of the first half that his makeshift offensive line has played pretty well, and they had played well decently in the first half, and they're starting to break down now. Sheldon, the pass chuck, gets there on that play, but that offensive line now for Winnipeg is starting to show some weakness.
So Westwood, big rush, just got it away, and a good kick. Allen, and there will be a no yards penalty. Under 2 minutes remaining in the third quarter in the pay. No yards penalty, and the Stampeders take over at their own 54-yard line. And the pitch to Reynolds, and he's brought down after a gain of 1. Good sure tackle there by Ike Charlton. 5-year NFL man in his second game with the Bombers.
You know, and Calgary Stampeders didn't want it to be real public early on before the game, but they wanted a blowout tonight. And they wanted to send a message. They wanted to build on that confidence. They didn't just want to win this game. They really wanted to put some points on the board, and they're starting to do that now.
That ball comes loose, and McGriggs is on it.
Yeah, that was not designed to Joffrey Reynolds.
No,
No.
that was a strange one. Reynolds coming across, and it bounced off him.
Reynolds was taking his time. He was coming over looking at where he was going to block. And he's going to come across the formation here, and he's trying to look so he can seal the backside, and he takes his time, and the ball snapped right as he's in the line of fire.
I wondered if that was designed as direct snap, but clearly, as you have indicated, Reynolds slow clearing the way. We mentioned Lamar McGriggs, a guy who could be in his last game, a Grey Cup winner. Terrific linebacker in his career. Will it be it? Russ Mickna now in relief of Kevin Glenn. And Mickna to Charles Roberts, who seems to be a forgotten man here since the late stages of the first quarter.
Well, it was a tough afternoon and into this evening for Kevin Glenn. He just started out with an interception, tried to go down the seam and deep early on. This one to Brian Clark. He got a real deep drop there, and then after fighting to get open on the outside, he had his receiver slip and Stiegel there, and another one to Joey Bose. So that's it for Kevin Glenn.
Glenn was critical when lifted after a 24-0 deficit in BC. But Jim Daly says if the game was getting out of hand, he wants to give guys like Mickna a shot. And here's Jamie Stoddard with a catch, and flag flies. Somebody might have got a piece of Stoddard's face mask.
You know, and it's interesting because it brings up the sort of the age-old debate about when you change quarterbacks. You mentioned Kevin Glenn was upset about being pulled even though they were being blown out, and I've always sort of felt like
Major foul, face mask, Calgary 48. 15-yard penalty, first down Winnipeg.
Brian Clark getting called there. That'll give Mickna a little more offensive yardage. But Matt Dunnigan used to talk about, you know, quarterbacks can't go in a game looking over their shoulder. They can't always feel like they're one bad throw away from being pulled. But boy, if you could ever get a situation where you got 2 or 3 that understand there may be a rotation, or you may just go with a hot guy or a changeup, how much better would you be if you could do that?
Does seem to be a little more energy here. Roberts trying to get outside Cole, and Trey Young has to move up from the safety spot to bring down the elusive Roberts on the final play of the third quarter, with the Bombers threatening. Stats after 3 quarters brought to you by Rhoda, the how-to people.
With 1 more quarter to play and 385 net yards for the Calgary Stampeders, they may be a bigger blotch on the radar for the rest of the teams as they head into the playoffs. They are putting it together in this second half.
Now the Bombers putting a drive together, looking at 2nd and 6. The left-hander looks for Brazel. Off his fingertips. Incomplete. Close call there. And we need to get a clarification on this call. Pink shirt.
Well, I'm just wondering, because early on in the game you said you didn't like the pink. What's you don't like the pink?
Well, you know, I get a lot of football flack from you about, you know,
talking figure skating and things like that.
Yeah.
But, you know, this is supposed to be a fashion statement, I heard. This is what my daughter tells me.
Okay.
But then again, for me, fashion is just if it's clean. That's basically how I pick the clothes. If it's clean, I'll wear it.
Just wasn't sure if there was a Halloween theme I'd missed. Picked on third down, and he skips that one incomplete. So the Bombers gamble on third down, and Mikta can't find Jamie Stoddard at the goal line.
And I'm not so sure he wasn't trying to throw it to Milt Stegall. And Milt Stegall let up on it thinking that it was to Jamie Stoddard, and then after the play realized that he maybe had a better chance at it. I mean, Stoddard's running the post. He's on the backside. Steagall's on the opposite side, and this is going to be basically the pattern for Jamie Stoddard. Now he gets down, he gets outside and around. Now here he comes. Nice little move there. Watch Stegall. There's Stegall. Steagall's right there too, and I think Stegall was the intended receiver. He's going, no, I meant 85, not 88.
Yeah, that reaction by Mikta seems to back up what you were saying. Here's David Allen out of the backfield. And this Calgary offense is certainly using 32 a lot more, incorporating a new weapon in their game plan.
Which may be, Chris, and I'm assuming that we may see Henry Burris for another drive or two, but this is another way of incorporating David Allen. Now he's becoming a receiver, right? And this may be why, again, they're leaving Burris in a little bit longer, one more series, maybe two, to try and execute this new type of offense.
Allen was 72 yards from scrimmage and a touchdown, and now the big horse, Joffrey Reynolds, with a run.
But pretty soon, you got to believe that Henry Burris will make his way to the Calgary sideline. 39-17 score, 18 of 21. Pretty good day. Well, not pretty good. A great day.
Yep.
For Henry Burris. And at what point is it become a risk to leave Henry Burris in the game?
Will he be in long enough for his first 300-yard passing game in the last 7 starts? Needs 13 more. Maybe this play. Tom Canada in chase. And Reynolds spots a receiver and gets Marte Jenkins for a first down at the 50.
What a throw from Henry Burris. This was all arm, and a great indication of just how strong that arm is, because he gets bubbled so deep here. First by Tom Canada, who gets upfield, and he almost has the sack, but he gets outside there. Now he's pushed. Osterhaus gets him way deep, and he strong arms that baby out there.
7 different receivers deployed by Burris today in another error-free effort. Allen to midfield. 5 more for David Allen.
And now they can just eat up the clock, the Calgary Stampeders, try and finish this game off. And there are a whole bunch of Winnipeg Blue Bombers that would like to finish the season off.
Well, you know, the Bombers can use these stamps as an inspiration, because they've been in the same boat for the past couple of years. Burris calls his own number.
Yeah, that's yikes.
Yeah, it worked.
Yeah,
but Henry, you got some bigger plays to call in the next few weeks.
Yeah, and that's great. You can't take the competition and the competitive nature out of guys like Henry Burris and the great quarterbacks in the league. They're going to go and get the first down and play the game the way they play the game from start to finish. That's where Tom Higgins comes in. That's where Tom's got to go over there and say, hey, enough of that with this game in hand.
First and 10 for the 48. Great fake. Henry to the line of scrimmage, now throws it to Nick Lewis with the catch. Henry Burris over 300 yards for the first time in 7 weeks.
Well, he's had quite an afternoon. It started in the afternoon and ended in the early evening here. And first he got a good play out of his slot back Jermaine Copeland. Nick Lewis finished that drive off. That one, big play to Kenyon Ramble. And he is on. Henry Burris is in a groove.
2 interceptions in his last 7 games. And now 300 yards plus. And looking for more, looking for Copeland. And that ball knocked down. And that's Charlton making the defensive play.
They like Ike Charlton, and why not? I mean, 5 years in the National Football League. Ike Charlton was a second-round draft pick in the National Football League to the Seattle Seahawks back in the year 2000.
Excuse me, though, that was Brad Franklin. Sorry.
Yeah. I followed your lead there, buddy.
Yeah, I led you down the wrong path.
That was Brad Franklin on that play, but they do like Ike Charlton, and when you add Brad Franklin and you move Sean Gallant to safety, Omar Evans has maybe been their best all year. They're not far off.
Looked like somebody may have jumped, and Burris.
Oh,
Nick Lewis, touchdown. Oh boy, but there is a flag. I think it's offside Winnipeg, and that play deserves to stand.
It really does. It really does, because had this play happened prior to tonight, it would have been in Jock's top 10 list for big catches.
You know, offside, Winnipeg 36, penalties declined. We have a touchdown.
That is a catch, and you can put catch in bold letters.
Oh boy. Because I thought that Henry Burris was kind of trying to throw it away. The pocket collapsed on him. He just threw it way behind the target, and somehow Nick Lewis turned around, got one hand on it, and brought it in.
You know, Tom Higgins was talking about Nick Lewis before the game, how good he is, but there's still another level.
Yeah.
The only thing that bothers him is sometimes he nonchalants it one-handed, but when you can catch with one hand like that. DeAngelis, the extra point. Geronimo.
They went way past wacky, right straight to nutty.
Which really does qualify them for the party on the Pacific.
It does, and that's what the Grey Cup is all about, where lawyers, doctors, and whoever else can paint their face, put on a funny hat, and go crazy for 1 week.
Yeah, and embarrass themselves.
Yeah. And there's the list of our winners, and congratulations to each and every one of them. It's going to be a great week of celebration in Vancouver. They're doing an excellent job to put together what should be a tremendous show for Grey Cup week.
You got plunger heads, you got pumpkin heads, and you got Russ Mickna trying to salvage something of this fourth quarter. Let's take a look at the 3rd touchdown pass of the game by Henry Burris, the 2nd score for Nick Lewis. And a beauty.
A simple out route that he makes look spectacular. I mean, the ball's thrown behind him, so he has to cut back on William Fields. And just an amazing catch, really. One hand, it's difficult enough to flip your shoulders around and come back like that and keep your body control.
Charles Roberts, and he can't hang on. That's the 8th touchdown catch of the year for Nick Lewis. Wes Lysak, the former Bomber, was watching Roberts, and it'll be 3rd down.
You know, when you mentioned Nick Lewis and Tom Higgins saying that he thinks he has another level to get to, both of us kind of looked like, wow. I mean, with his numbers.
Well, he came in 5th in the league in receiving.
Yeah, and the leading receiver for the Calgary Stampeders in year 2 of his career. And to think that he can improve, and could he be the next 2,000-yard receiver one day?
Allen back, and Allen got out of there. And caught from behind at midfield. So David Allen's made an impact here today. Henry Burris' day is done. 3 touchdown passes, no interceptions, over 300 yards. He has 20 touchdown throws on the season.
Well, both quarterbacks hit the bench before the end of the game, but Henry Burris hit it on the right side of the ledger, and that's playing almost error-free, completely error-free football. Over 300 yards passing.
Danny Wimprine in at quarterback. We got a couple of starts when Henry Burris was out with the thumb injury.
And played quite well. You know, I mean, Danny Wimprine came in and showed the Calgary Stampeders organization that he has a good upside, that he has potential, has a very strong arm.
Had the victory against Ottawa. Then ran into some tough sledding against Montreal. Set up the screen. Reynolds made the grab, but right there was Sean Woodson. Brings him down. And a reminder to Stampeders season ticket holders, you have until Monday, October 31st to keep your seats and purchase playoff tickets. On Tuesday, November 2nd, playoff tickets will be made available to the public. And you can do it by calling the Stampeder ticket office, 403-289-0258. If Calgary does not host the Scotiabank West semifinal, tickets will be fully refunded. But we are in a position that Calgary and Edmonton, it is safe to say, will be fighting for a home playoff spot next week.
Can't wait for one more edition of the Battle of Alberta there.
Objectionable conduct, Calgary 21. Objectionable conduct, Winnipeg number 4. We have offsetting fouls. It's third down.
Omar Evans and Joffrey Reynolds, and we will be in Calgary next Sunday for a game. Even when we got our schedules at the start of the year, we circled and said, wow, I wonder if.
That one could be a big one, and it looks like it will be.
And it could be what decides first as well in the CFL West. Saskatchewan would have to beat BC, but either way, it's for a home playoff spot, Calgary or Edmonton, next Sunday at McMahon. Stokes, and he is contained, brought down at the 11. Tonight's game story brought to you by Sport Check, the power of sport.
Henry Burris was as close to the perfect game as you can put together for a quarterback. Over 300 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 rushing, and 0 turnovers. Big game for Nick Lewis. Farmers defense has struggled all year and continues to struggle.
Russ Mikna handing it off, and Charles Roberts, boy, he runs hard every time they hand him the football.
Yeah, he does. And this guy runs hard every play and brings that intensity every play. With tremendous career for Milt Stegall, 12,305 total yards. That average is incredible. That tells you how many DBs he ran by and how many deep balls he caught. 128 touchdowns. Will be a lock for the Canadian Football Hall of Fame. And let's just hope that he comes back for another season.
How's that petition we were talking about going?
Yeah.
Here's Mikna gunning it to Stokes over the middle. Completion. And that will give Mikna and the Bomber offense a fresh set of downs. Well, it's been a memorable year for Milt Stegall. And he broke Alan Pitt's touchdown record back in the Labor Day Classic between Winnipeg and Saskatchewan. Catch of the year.
This may be one of the, if not the catch of the year right there for Milt Stegall. Of course, we mentioned early on his huge game versus the BC Lions.
4 touchdowns in the game. Look at Roberts, change direction, kick it outside, and go to midfield. I mean, you're out of the playoffs. It's been a disappointing year, but you get your money's worth when you buy a ticket in Winnipeg just to watch him.
Yeah, that's a great point. And Milt Stegall. You know, Charles Roberts and Milt Stegall alone worth the price of admission, but this is the effort that Charles Roberts gives you every single play, despite the circumstances. And on the play, Milt Stegall working hard, blocking, going after people.
23 yards for Roberts with some help from his friend. Back to Charles.
And you know, that on Milt Stegall right there, to me, is maybe more important than all the numbers that we showed you and the great numbers that he has put up in his career, because those are the things that you don't see in the stats, that you don't see in the newspaper. But I guarantee you the teammates see those things. And look at Stegall. He's going to help on Cohen. He's getting out. Milt Stegall could have easily said, or any player out here could easily say, hey, look, that's it. The season's over. Let's go. Not this guy. That's why he's a Hall of Famer, and or will be a Hall of Famer.
You know what's perplexing, though? 4 catches, 234, and 4 touchdowns in that game against BC. As they go to the middle to Stegall with a flag down. But that's just the 5th time they've gone to him in 3 games since.
Yeah, and
Holding. Winnipeg 68. 10-yard penalty. Repeat second down.
let's show the catch, even though this play will come back. And then part of the reason for that, Chris, is that when you have 234 yards, the defenses take notice, and now you can double cover. And there are ways defensively to take away one receiver. And that's where, if you have a good balanced team, the rest of your teammates step up, and Chris Brazel has a 180-yard game, or Keith Stokes has to have a 180-yard game because of all the attention that Milt Stegall will draw. The Bombers haven't had that this year consistently, which is why they've struggled. But Milt Stegall has done his thing.
2nd and 20. Roberts. George White can't find him. And Roberts down to the 48. And he'll be about 3 yards short. And they'll be going for it on 3rd down.
So, Milt Stegall deals with the same thing that every player deals with at some point in his career. He's got a young family, and he wants to spend more time with them in the States. And it's very difficult for him to have to leave his kid and his young son. But hopefully he's back. I mean, I hate to see him go out on a season like this for Winnipeg.
Oh, Mickna getting drilled as John Grace smokes the Bomber quarterback on 3rd down. 8th sack of the year for Grace.
The playmaker, Grace makes a ton of them back there, whether it be interceptions, sacks. There's some great stats. Here he is right here. Highlight them for you so you can take a look at some of John Grace's handiwork.
And that just gave the Stamps the lead in the sack department. One ahead of Edmonton with 1 game to go for both teams
Against each other.
So Ricky Ray and Henry Burris will be in the crosshairs next week. Wimprine looking for Marte Jenkins, incomplete.
So just to wrap up my thought on Milt Stegall, I understand what he's going through, and every player does, trying to wrestle between family and football. But I really believe that the pressure on Brendan Taman to sign off-season free agents and to build this football team into a contender quickly will really influence Milt Stegall's decision in the offseason, because he does not have a Grey Cup ring.
He's still in quest of that Grey Cup ring, and 9 touchdowns short of the all-time record co-held by George Reed and Mike Pringle. That ball almost picked off. Justin Coleman had it in his hands. It falls incomplete. Well, we talked to Milt about the dilemma. He still wants to play, but he has to make a choice with his family as well.
It's all based on my family, my wife, and my son, and we're going to talk about it and go from there. Hopefully, I'm back next year. You never heard of a football player who say I want to retire. It's just other priorities that they have to take care of. So we're going to talk about it. I'm going to try to influence her to let me come back, and I even told her she can come up here, but she likes to work. She likes being in Atlanta. So we're going to wait and see what happens. Whatever happens next year, I'm going to let next year take care of that. I'm just trying to focus on the task at hand, and that's hopefully going out there and beating Calgary.
His wife has a very good job in the Atlanta area, and that's one of the reasons they haven't moved up to Winnipeg full-time. Stokes on the return. Doesn't want to go down. Up across the 20, the 3-minute warning given to the benches. Maybe the last series for Milt Stegall.
Halloween, and a lot of people are wearing masks anyway.
One thing about Bomber fans, they're active participants. Charles Roberts up to the 45-yard line.
And that run may seal the deal for Charles Roberts as far as the overall race and the rushing title. It puts him over 100 yards on the game, and that can pretty much seal the deal, even though Joffrey Reynolds has a game in hand.
6-time over 100 this year. Although the old standby that if he runs for 100, the Bombers win, didn't stick this season. But you can't take anything away from Roberts.
No, he'll end up 2-4 in that category this season.
Well, he was found that time by George White. Behind the line of scrimmage, he's back down to 100 even.
Calgary Stampeders are looking very strong heading into the playoffs, and stronger, I think, than a lot of people are giving them credit for.
You know, Sheldon Napashchuk was saying yesterday after the game in Saskatchewan where they had to turn it on in the second half, they were lamenting the fact they really haven't played a lot of 60-minute football games. And while one of them was grumbling, somebody else said, you know what, we've won 5 of the last 6. Stokes down to the Calgary 51, but here's a team that may just be hitting stride, and they've been hot for a while.
Well, they've had that defense. The defense has been there pretty much all season long. And now they've got their starting quarterback back and in Henry Burris. And not only is he back, but he's in a groove. And his injury situation on his hand seems to be behind him, even though he will continue to wear a cast for protection. So Tom Higgins really has his team playing their best football at the perfect time.
And that, over the years, has been, I guess, the recipe for success at Grey Cup time. You know, sometimes the records you throw out. In 2001, the best example of that, the Stampeders won 8 in the regular season, but they were just hitting on all cylinders when the postseason began.
Your quarterback's in a groove. Look out. Now, having said that, there's pretty good quarterbacking in Edmonton, pretty good quarterbacking in BC. So it won't be easy for Tom Higgins, without question. But the bottom line is, boy, this playoff race and the playoffs, when they begin, should be some kind of show.
Mikna opts that one to Stiegel. Well covered on the play by Lysak.
You know, the other thing that Milt Stiegel has been that isn't talked about often, because we're always talking about football, is what he's done for the community here in Winnipeg. And there's probably not a player in this organization that has made more public appearances, talked to more kids, and influenced more young lives in the community than Milt Stiegel.
Second and 10. Mikna. And there's a completion. Jamie Stoddard with the catch. The U of Alberta product. And another first down with 89 seconds left on the clock.
Russ Mikna had Milt Stiegel over the middle there. He had him on a crossing route and went away from him, but he did get open again.
You know, we touched on it earlier about Kevin Glenn. The number's pretty good, although he doesn't finish well today. Mikna's a guy that will be in the mix next year, but will Winnipeg go out and revamp their defense, or will the quarterback be one of the focuses of their off-season recruiting? Roberts, stutter step, and he's brought down right at the line of scrimmage.
And you wonder, with the way this team is finished, about Jim Daly's future. And, you know, 3 weeks ago, Lyle Bauer, and the message coming from the organization was that both Brendan Taman and Jim Daly were fine, and that they'd had to build on what they're trying to do and bring in some more talent for them to work with. But the way they finished with the BC debacle in this game, you know, that question comes up again. And there's one school of thought that says every time you make a change, you start from scratch. But the question will be there this offseason.
Grey Cup hosts for next year. Mikna surrounded, got it away, and another catch by Stoddard. Winnipeg offense almost all season long.
Well, and Chris, your thought about the Kevin Glenn controversy will be turned up a notch now just because of a few throws from Russ Mikna to finish this game off. And this is a good one. He's got pressure. He's getting pushed back, and on the crossing route is Jamie Stoddard. But this little drive where you know the Calgary Stampeders are playing way off, and it's a very different intensity level from Calgary at this point, including playing backups, and it makes the quarterback always look better than he is. But a few catches to the average viewer and a couple throws from Russ Mikna just turn the heat up on Kevin Glenn and what they do there.
Russ Mikna is like every backup quarterback on every losing team. He's the most popular guy in town.
That's right.
Injured Calgary Stampeder will take a timeout.
Create a reaction with Fusion, new from Ford.
Terrence Patrick, the injured Stampeder, has gone to the sidelines. First down, and Mikna looking into the corner, and Milt Stiegel has one more touchdown. Number 129 of his Hall of Fame career.
Take a look at one of the best all time.
And the fans that remain here give him a standing ovation. His 17th touchdown catch of the year. Westwood adds the extra point. Will that be the last? We hope not. Yes, this city will host Grey Cup 2006. He has everything you could want on a resume except a Grey Cup.
And that may be the one thing that pulls him back. And Charles Roberts has just, in this game here this evening, hit an all-time high, rushing the football in a single season with 1,608 yards and added 12 touchdowns to a great year. He predicted 2,000 at the beginning of the year and fell a little short of that, but 1,600, I'd take it any time if I'm the coach.
Yeah, the start was what hurt Roberts. 46 yards in the first two games. Little nubbler here, and it'll be covered by George White as Westwood faked one way and went the other.
You know, and that's, you can build around. You know, if you bring in, if you're Brendan Taman and you bring in 3-4 good quality receivers to compete for a couple of jobs, Stiegel's there to help him. You got Charles Roberts. You can build around that running game. You know he's good for between 1,400 and who knows what, because he could hit 2,000 if he got off to a good start, like you mentioned. And then you put together a defense that can stop teams when you need them. You're there. It sounds sounds easy. I know it's obviously a lot more difficult, and great players don't fall off trees, but they're not too far off.
No, that defense needs a major overhaul, and they need a defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Jim Daly's been kind of doubling up in that department since Rod Rust was forced because of a family issue to leave the team about midway through. Well, they've got a front four.
They got a front four, a couple linebackers, couple keepers in the defensive secondary.
Reynolds up to midfield. It'll be third down, less than a half minute to go. But this was a team that lost to Calgary in the 2001 Grey Cup. And since then, it's been downhill.
Yeah, the last two seasons, the record on the road, just, that's, you know, you want to dominate at home and have a winning record at home, and then try and split on the road. That's the goal.
And speaking of road records, with the win here today, the Stamps win 6 away from McMahon this year. That's tops in the league
Yeah, and the Stamps are, like we said, hitting their stride, and that's why this playoffs this year is going to be unbelievable, because you get Saskatchewan crossing over, Calgary, Edmonton battling for home field next week. The BC Lions playing very good football despite the fact that they're struggling of late. When you look at the win-loss column, they're still an elite team, with quarterbacks becoming healthier in BC.
The punt bounces back, and a flag down on the no yards. You know, oh, here we go, a little extracurricular. Burke Dales, and whoa, Ron Ockamy goes skyward. What do these guys think they are, the Ticats and the Argos? And a punter in the middle of it at the bottom of the pile. And that's separated quickly. With that ball bouncing backwards, somebody took a shot at the punter, and Dales, who was eligible to come down and field that ball, took exception to the hit, apparently.
Well, for what Ron Ockamy just did to dive over the pile, he certainly doesn't look real fired up as he goes to the sideline.
Is that Wade Miller, I think, got a shot in on Dales coming downfield.
There's Dale's 14, and Wade Miller kind of throws him down and then gives him the extra. No, and I don't blame Dales for fighting back there, but you know, there is one message from the officials, and we talked to George Black, the head of officiating. There's Ockamy over the top, the head of officiating before the game, and the one message that the teams in the league, as they finish off the season with their last week of regular season play and go into the playoffs, the little pushing and shoving that's happened over the last couple of weeks is going to be looked at very closely, and flags will fly immediately. And George Black said that he has now discussed it. There's George Black up in the corner there. He's watching right up here.
First foul on the play
and has
was
done
Calgary,
a real nice job.
No yards, bouncing ball, 5-yard penalty. Second foul on the play was Calgary, 14, unnecessary roughness, 15-yard penalty. Third foul on the play, Winnipeg, number 15, rough play, disqualification. As a result of the fouls, there's a net 5 yards against Winnipeg from the point the ball was first touched, and it's first out.
You know, and George Black has done a real nice job. I think the officiating this year has improved tremendously. It's headed in the right direction. And over the last 3 weeks, they've had some bumps in the road. And I thought over the last couple of games we've done, they started to let things get out of hand because it is so intense right now. And those little pushes early in the game turn into all-out brawls at the end of the game. And George Black told me that he is going to change that. He's talked to all the officials about the rest of the year in the playoffs. That little push after the whistle is going to cost you this from now on in. And he said he's told the officials, we will not put up with it because it escalates too quickly.
So Ockamy will make his way to the sidelines, and this has been really one of these games where we're not going to talk about an official's call, you know, having any impact on the game.
No, they did a good job. They did a very good job today.
Roberts adds to his total. On what might be the last carry of the year, up across the 30 with 11 seconds to go. Just a final thought. You were mentioning the 6 teams left, and Tom Higgins a couple weeks ago, and I don't think it was rhetoric. I agree with him, said any one of the 6 teams legitimately this year could run right to a Grey Cup championship.
Without question. Montreal looks like they're back on track. Toronto, maybe one of the best, if not the best team in the league. The BC Lions have had some problems win-loss column, but they're still there with healthier quarterbacks than they've had over the last 5-6 weeks.
Eskimos with their defense and Calgary with theirs. Roberts on the final play of the season for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And Tom Higgins, Calgary Stampeders have won their 10th and will go home to meet Edmonton to battle for a home field playoff spot. Big day for Brian Clark, and maybe the last day for Milt Stegall. 46-24, the final.